There is a love that is born too early to be taken seriously and too strong to be forgotten. A love that survives distance, time, even a changed name. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe, somewhere in the world, there is someone keeping a place for you, even after years of silence? Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Mariana and Miguel, two hearts that separated at 17 years old, and a childhood flavor that brought them together again. Mariana was 17 years old when she first stepped onto her grandmother's farm in Vista Alegre, a small village surrounded by coffee plantations, where time seemed to move more slowly than in a city. Her mother had sent her to spend the holidays there while she resolved work problems, and Mariana, who only knew the noise and rush of the big city, arrived, suspicious of all that silence. It was her grandmother, Mrs. Zulmira, who received her at the wooden gate, arms open and apron dirty with flour. "Come here, my daughter. The house is big, but its heart is even bigger." In the first few days, Mariana wandered around the surroundings, always alone, missing her friends, the cell phone that barely got signal there. It was on one of those afternoons, sitting in the shade of a mango tree, that she spotted a boy leading two cows along the dirt road. He stopped, took off his straw hat, and said, with a shy smile, "You are Mrs. Zulmira's granddaughter, right? My name is Miguel. My grandfather worked for her family his whole life." It was like that, simple and without ceremony, that everything began. Miguel was the same age as Mariana, but had the eyes of someone who already carried responsibility. He helped his father in the fields since he was little, knew how to deal with the land, animals, and bad weather, as if he had been born knowing it. Mariana, enchanted by that way so different from everything she knew, began to wait for the afternoons when he passed by the farm fence. The two began to meet every day. Miguel showed her the hidden corners of the property, the shallow stream where the children of the region learned to swim, the sweetest guava tree in the area, the corral where the calves were born. Mariana, in turn, entered her grandmother's kitchen and learned the secrets of country cooking. The right point for fluffy rice, the seasoning for the beans, and mainly the polenta recipe that Mrs. Zulmira had kept for generations. A good polenta has to be stirred with patience, my daughter. Hooths like Lao. There's no use in rushing. Mariana would take the hot polenta, wrapped in a cloth, to the foot of the mango tree, where Miguel waited for her after work. He ate it with his eyes closed, as if that flavor was the most precious thing he had ever tasted. "Nobody makes it like you, Mariana. Not even my mother used to make it like this." It was there, between the smell of cooked corn and the noise of the crickets at dusk, that their first love was born. It didn't need grand declarations. It was enough the comfortable silence of two hands that met, the first long looks, the conversations that extended until late hours on the porch, under the discreet and approving gaze of Mrs. Zulmira. "That boy has a good heart, Mariana, that is worth more than a farm, more than studies, more than anything." But summer, like every good season, came to an end. Mariana's mother called warning that the holidays were over. It was time to return to the city, finish her studies, follow the path she had planned for her daughter. Mariana begged for a few more days, but the answer was firm. "Daughter, you have a future ahead of you. Vista Alegre is not going anywhere. But your studies won't wait." On the eve of her departure, Miguel appeared at the gate with a package in his hands. It was a small image carved in wood, made by himself, representing two intertwined hands. "So you don't forget me," he said, eyes watery, trying to look strong. "I will never forget you, Miguel. Never." They hugged each other for a long time, without grand promises, because deep down both knew that life still had many paths reserved. Mariana left the next day, looking through the car window until Miguel's figure disappeared in the dust of the road. What neither of them knew was that that goodbye would last much longer than a summer. The years passed as years pass, slowly when you're waiting, too fast when you look back. Mariana grew up, finished her studies, and discovered, while still young, a passion that never left her: cooking. She graduated in gastronomy, worked in restaurants around the city, perfected recipes, but always kept, deep in her memory, The flavor of that polenta she learned from her grandmother in the face of a boy who ate it with his eyes closed. She tried, twice, to write letters to Vista Alegre. No ansuercame. Mrs. Zulmira, already very old, had moved closer to another relative, and contact with that place was gradually lost, as happens when life pushes us forward without asking permission. Miguel, on the other hand, followed another destiny. After his father's death, he took over the family's small property and, with hard work and stubbornness, expanded the land. Plantation by plantation, head of cattle by head of cattle. He became known in the region no longer as Miguel, but as Josefo, a nickname inherited from his grandfather that everyone respected, and that stuck in such a way that even the old documents of the neighboring farm registered him as such. Few, besides the closest family, still called him by his real name. He never forgot Mariana on silent nights after closing the corral. He still remembered the flavor of that polenta and the girl with clear eyes who brought it to him, wrapped in a dishcloth. He even dated other people, but nothing lasted, as if his heart already had an owner and had never signed the deed for anyone else. The years went by. Miguel, now a grown man, owner of respected lands throughout the region, had a reputation for being serious, hardworking, but also solitary. He lived between the fields and business, without time or desire to look back. Meanwhile, Mariana, already a recognized cook, felt that something was missing in the rush of the city. The noise of the industrial stove and the hurry of fancied restaurants didn't have the same taste as the afternoons on the farm. One day, while leafing through a newspaper, she saw Hanat Farm in Japuera needs experienced cook to serve employees and visitors, property of Mr. Josefo. The name meant nothing to her, just another vacancy, another opportunity to return to the countryside. That place that always pulled her heart back. Without hesitation, Mariana applied, was approved, and in a few weeks was moving to the most respected farm in the region. Upon arriving there, she charmed everyone with her food. The employees spoke of the new cook as if she were a blessing. The right seasonings, the fluffy rice, the hearty beans, and, mainly, a polenta that no one could explain why it was so special. They only knew that. When eating it, they felt a kind of longing for something they didn't even know how to name. The boss, however, the so-called Mr. Josefo, was always traveling between properties, resolving issues on another farm he had bought a few hours away. It had been days since he had stepped foot at home. Mariana had not seen him even once, until, on a rainy night, he returned. Miguel arrived exhausted, soaked, his body heavy from so much work and sleepless nights solving the problems of the other farm. He had barely gotten off the horse when he felt the fever rise and his body give in. The worried employees took him straight to the bedroom. "Call the new cook," said the foreman at the door. "Ask her to make chicken soup for the boss. He needs something hot." Mariana, who was already finishing her kitchen duties, didn't hesitate. She prepared the soup with care, but as she always made a point of sending something more comforting to those who were sick, she decided to prepare a small portion of polenta as well. The recipe she learned from her grandmother, made with the same patience as always. She took the tray to the bedroom, left it with the employee responsible for the care, and returned to the kitchen without imagining what would happen minutes later. Miguel, weak and feverish, could barely sit up in bed. He tried the soup first, but it was when he tasted the polenta that something inside him seemed to stop time. The flavor was exactly that. The same seasoning, the same texture, the same way of stirring that only one person in the world knew how to do. He closed his eyes and, for a moment, was no longer in that farm bedroom. He was back under the mango tree, 17 years old, waiting for a girl with clear eyes who ran through the pasture with a warm package in her hands. "This polenta," he murmured, his voice choked. Only one person in the world made it like this. Mariana. The employee, surprised, replied, "But, Mr. Josefo, that is exactly the name of our new cook." Mariana. Miguel felt his whole body shiver. Ignoring the weakness, he got up from the bed with difficulty. Legs wobbly, heart racing more from emotion than from the fever. He went to the bedroom door and, with a hoarse voice, shouted toward the hallway. Mariana. The glass of water he was holding slipped from his hand, shattering on the wooden floor, but he didn't even notice the noise. In the kitchen, Mariana stopped what she was doing. That voice she would recognize anywhere in the world, even after so many years. She dropped the dishcloth on the counter and ran down the hallway, her heart beating so hard it almost hurt. When the two saw each other, time seemed to collapse between them. There was no longer the boy with the straw hat, nor the scared girl with the silence of the countryside. There were two adults, marked by life, by distance, by waiting. But the eyes were the same. They love, too. Miguel, she whispered, incredulous. I never stopped waiting for you, he replied, his voice choked with emotion and fever. They ran toward each other and hugged like someone who finds a piece of themselves that had been lost in time. Mariana cried on his shoulder, and Miguel, even weak, held her with all the strength he still had, as if he were afraid that, if he let go, she would disappear again. I looked for you. Mariana, after you left, I wrote letters. I asked about you. I wrote too, Miguel, but Grandma moved, and I lost contact. I never imagined that Mr. Josepho was you. He smiled, even tired. I became Josepho to survive in this hard land, but my heart never stopped being the boy who waited for you under the mango tree. The following days were of recovery. The fever passed, but the certainty that that reunion was not a coincidence, but destiny, grew with every conversation, with every afternoon remembering the summer in Vista Alegre. It didn't take long for the teenage romance to transform into something more mature, firmer, built on the foundation that only time and distance can truly test. They got married on a simple Sunday, in the little church of the village, surrounded by the farm employees, by Mrs. Zulmira, already very old, but present and proud, and by everyone who knew the story of the two young people that time separated in life through a plate of polenta, knew how to bring back together. They had children who grew up hearing their parents' story, how a childhood flavor kept with affection was able to cross years of silence and bring back a love that, in fact, had never left, and never again, from that day on, did Mariana and Miguel move away from each other. This story teaches us that there are loves that don't need constant presence to survive. They only need a place kept in the heart, waiting for the right time to return. Sometimes life takes us away from the people we love through paths we didn't choose. But what is true doesn't fade with time, nor with distance, nor even with a name change. Mariana and Miguel show us that the patience of true love is like the patience of making a good polenta. It requires time. It requires care. It requires that we don't give up, even when the fire seems weak. And, in the end, the flavor that remains is sweeter, precisely because it was conquered with waiting. The question remains for you who are listening. Is there someone, somewhere in your past, who still keeps a little space in your heart? Perhaps destiny, just as it did with Mariana and Miguel, is still preparing the way for a reunion. If this story touched your heart, leave below in the comments what you felt. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and share this story with those who also believe that true love knows how to wait.